Roman Reigns may have finally met a family member too hungry to control. Not too strong, not too dangerous, not too rebellious, too hungry. And that's different. Because danger can be managed. Rebellion can be punished. Strength can be tested. But hunger, if it doesn't get fed, it keeps coming. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Quickie. I'm Tristen Law, semi-retired pro wrestler and your host. You don't have much time, and neither do I. So let's have a quickie. Jacob Fatu is not just another bloodline body. That's the mistake I think that some people are making when they watch this story. They see Jacob Fatu wrecking people. They see the intensity. They see the wild eyes. They see the violence. The easy takeaway is, oh, Jacob Fatu's dangerous. Yeah, obviously, but that's not the story. The story is not just that Jacob Fatu's dangerous. The story is that Jacob Fatu may be the first family member Roman Reigns cannot absorb, control, humble, or manipulate. Because Roman's entire bloodline run was built on control. He controlled Jimmy, he controlled Jay, he controlled Solo, he even controlled Paul Heyman. Roman controlled the room before he even said a word. The guy stands in the ring, everybody's cheering for him, waiting for him to say, acknowledge me, and put up one finger. That's his gift. That was his power. Roman didn't just beat people, he made people orbit around him. But Jacob Fatu doesn't feel like someone who wants to orbit around Roman Reigns. Jacob Fatu feels like someone who got close enough to the top floor, saw what the view looked like, and said, wait a minute, this is what y'all had access to? Main events, spotlights, money, power, a seat at the table, and now Jacob wants in. Not later, now. And that's why this feels different. Solo Sikoa, I'm not gonna lie, he never felt dangerous to me. The way that Jacob Fatu feels dangerous right now, Solo has the MFTs running around him. Solo was trying to is trying to sit in Roman's chair, talk with Roman's weight. But the problem is simple. Solo is not Roman. And when you're trying to be Roman Reigns, everybody else can see the imitation. Jacob Fatu isn't trying to be Roman Reigns. Jacob Fatu is running around doing this by himself, and that's what makes him scary. Solo looks like somebody trying to control chaos. Jacob looks like the chaos. And that matters, because after Jacob Fatu beat Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, that told me everything I needed to know. Drew McIntyre is not some small test. Drew is one of the nastiest dogs in the yard. Drew is the kind of guy you put somebody against when you want to find out if they really belong in that space. And Jacob Fatu, he stepped into the yard with Drew McIntyre and he survived. When the Usos are trying to talk him down, they're not dealing with some random hothead. Jacob Fatu, he's family. Their fathers, Rikishi and Tonga Kid, they are brothers. But here's the part that makes this interesting. When people talk about the family tree, who do they usually talk about? Roman, the Usos, Rikishi, Umaga, The Rock, the more visible branches. But Jacob Fatu, his branch has been sitting there too. He's not asking for permission to matter. He's forcing the whole family to look at him. That's why I don't think Jacob is thinking about the bloodline the way everybody else is thinking about the bloodline. The Usos are trying to save the family tree. Jacob Fatu is trying to make sure his branch finally gets sunlight. That's the whole story right there. Because the Usos are trying to play peacemaker. But let's be honest, they're the older cousins trying to put Jacob Fatu back in his place. And I don't think they can fully even relate to him. They've been in the WWE ecosystem for what, 15, 16 years? They've had the platform. They've had the titles. They've had plenty of WrestleMania moments. Jacob just got here. And the second he got close to the top floor, he smelt blood in the water. The blood wasn't weakness. The blood was opportunity. The blood was, oh, I can eat here? And once a man realizes that he can eat, you're going to have a hard time convincing him to go back outside and wait his turn. I don't look at Jacob Fatu as the villain here. I look at him as a man fighting for his own survival. Are Jacob's methods reckless? Absolutely. But reckless doesn't always mean wrong. Sometimes reckless comes from desperation. Sometimes reckless comes from a man realizing nobody wasn't trying to feed him, so now he has to feed himself. Who was out there saying, hey, Jacob, come join the bloodline. Let's make sure that your side of the family tree, that your branch gets to eat too. Nobody. He has to be loyal to his kids. He has to be loyal to his future. He has to be loyal to his own legacy. And when you understand that, this is not just some wild man crashing out. This is a man looking at the biggest opportunity of his life and saying, I'm not missing my chance to eat. That's why I don't think Jacob Fatu's looking for Roman's respect. Jacob already knows that he's dangerous. He proved that when he survived Drew McIntyre. Jacob Fatu wants the spotlight and the money. And I don't say it like it's a bad thing. Sometimes a man looks around and says, I got kids, I got a name, I got talent, I got value, so why am I standing outside the penthouse guarding the door when I know my father helped build the building too? That's Jacob Fatu right now. He wants to eat. And now that he's close enough to the top floor, he's not going to go back to the lobby. That's the problem that Roman Reigns has. Because Roman probably looks at Jacob as a disrespectful family member who needs to be humbled. Roman's mindset is probably, you can come with me, you can follow me, you can acknowledge me, you can stand underneath my umbrella, but you need to know your place. But that's the problem. Jacob Fatu knows that following Roman Reigns is a ceiling. Yeah, he might eat under Roman, he might do good, he might become popular, he might become a big star under Roman, he might get protected under Roman, but he'll never be the guy if Roman is still standing over him. And that is where the real tension lives. Roman may see Jacob as disrespectful, but the truth is, Jacob is a threat to Roman's throne because he understands the difference between being allowed in the room and owning the room. And that brings me to the biggest mistake WWE could make. The biggest mistake WWE can make with Jacob Fatu is turning him into just another Roman Reigns opponent. If Jacob Fatu is only here to be Roman's first credible challenger since beating Punk at WrestleMania for the title, then this is all for nothing. Because what happens after Roman beats him? Jacob just goes back to floating around the upper mid-card with Drew McIntyre. Jacob becomes another dangerous guy who looked great until the top guy needed somebody to beat? That can't be it. Jacob Fatu has too much going on right now for that. The hunger feels too real. There are people out there that can relate to Jacob Fatu. The opportunity feels too real. This cannot just be about Roman Reigns needing a threat. This has to be about Jacob Fatu realizing that he can be the threat. Because WWE is not just telling us that Jacob Fatu is strong. They're telling us that Jacob Fatu is hungry. And hunger is more interesting than strength. Strength is what you can do. Hunger is why you do it. Jacob Fatu's not fighting for the bloodline. He's fighting for his branch, his spotlight, his money, his future, a chance to finally eat. And if Roman Reigns thinks that he can control that with family politics, promos, intimidation, he may be in for a problem. Because Jacob Fatu does not feel like a man who wants to stand behind Roman Reigns. He feels like a man looking at Roman Reigns' spot and asking, so why not me? And here's the whole entire episode right now. The Usos are trying to save the family tree. Jacob Fatu is trying to make sure his branch finally gets sunlight. Roman Reigns built the bloodline on control, but Jacob Fatu, he's moving off hunger. And hunger does not ask for permission. I'm Tristen, and this was your Pro Wrestling Quickie.